Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Club. I'm Graham.
And I'm George.
All right, so just recently, I had the wonderful opportunity to go to the Tokyo Game Show 2024. It was totally awesome. We were thinking about doing some interviews. We didn't actually get to any interviews because we didn't see anything too amazing, and some of the interviews we wanted to line up didn't fall through because of scheduling. However, that did give me lots of opportunity to go and play some games at the Tokyo Game Show that maybe I wouldn't have had time to otherwise, especially some really key games. So we're going to talk about 3 to 4. We've got one more bonus one here at the end. Games that everyone is looking forward to in the gacha space. So I'm going to give my impressions. As a little backstory to who I am and what my experience is, I've been playing gacha games for frickin' forever at this point, but I'm also, like, at our core, we're like hardcore traditional kind of gamers, right? So our standards for games is pretty high, and most of the time, gacha games do not meet that mark. So we're looking at, like, high standards. We don't play most gacha games. We've played things like Genshin Impact, Dragalia Lost, basically all the Hoyo games. A couple of other games, Withering Waves we played, which is pretty decent as well. So we've got a repertoire between us, and I've gotten my hands on the games, so I think it's a good idea to give people an idea of what to expect with these upcoming games.
Yeah, some of these, like some of the trailers for some of these games, the view counts are in the millions, so people are excited. I'm curious to see what you think.
Yeah. All right, so let's get in the first game. The first game was Neverness to Everness, which is easily the stupidest fucking name of almost any game I've ever heard of. NTE is what it's called.
What does it mean? No one knows. We're not supposed to know.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, so what to say about this game? So this game, let's talk about some of the things that I really liked. The character designs are pretty good. If I like to rate things out of 5, so if I had to give like the rating of the character designs, I'd say it's like a solid 3 to 4. Like some of them are 3, some of them are 4. They do a pretty good job. They had decent emotional range in the game, not huge, but they had, you know, decent amount. 3 to 4. So I was really happy with what I saw from the character designs. Now, character designs, of course, you can see from the trailers and stuff like that. So it's not, you know, a huge deal.
Sure.
But
what would you say is a 5? In which gacha game would you say has 5 in character design?
That's a good question. The Hoyo games usually have, like, I would say pretty much 5 out of 5 on the scale.
Sure.
I would say I like the Honkai Star Rail characters probably up there at 5. I would say the Genshin characters are like 4.5 to 5. And then the Zenless Zone Zero, I would say, is like up there, the 5 as well.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good question. Yeah, so one thing actually it just showed here at the bottom, the area design as well was really good. The areas themselves, like the city and some of the other areas, seemed kind of generic and nothing really stood out about them. But what they did with the areas was really cool. They had like objects like would spontaneously float, or they'd use the color palette in a really interesting way, or you'd be on like a train and the train would like, you'd be at the end of the train car, but then it would all of a sudden extend, right? It would do things that only games could do, right?
Yeah.
If you know, think of like Control. If you've ever played Control and all the trippy things that they did with space manipulation and that's basically like, at least from a area perspective, it's like a Control gacha game when it comes to that. So I really was impressed. That's like 5 out of 5. It was super nice,
That's
really
pretty
cool. Yeah, it was really sick. Now, the areas themselves, when they weren't manipulating them this cool way, they're just kind of generic as, again, like a 3 to 4. It was, like, nice. It didn't look bad at all. But, yeah, so very stylized, really cool stuff they're doing with that. The spell effects were really cool. They were pretty varied and interesting. There was this one cat girl with pink hair who had, like, she had, like, lightning powers, but they weren't really like lightning. They were like green and pink lightning kind of electricity thing. And she would take her hand. You had this like mode where she could take her finger and like shoot lightning like a gun out of her finger and stuff like that.
Wow. Okay.
And yeah, and like there were some characters that would like swipe. I think it might have been even the same character, but she would like swipe, and the kind of effect that they did around the speed lines were like green and pink right? It wasn't just like a speed line. They really were like, how can we take these effects that normally depict motion and things like that and like make it into something stylized? And that's basically what they're doing with the effects. And it works. It works really good. It looks really nice. Very cool. I was super into it. Yeah.
Nice. Very good.
Yeah. Likewise, enemy design is pretty good as well. It's not amazing. Like the normal enemies I was fighting were like a 3, but we got to a boss that was basically like a whole bunch of really neon paints kind of all going together. That was a really cool design. They did some really cool stuff with it as well. The boss would transform into different shapes and things. So from a visual design perspective, the boss was really cool. I would say like 4 to 5, really cool stuff. The mechanics were like... I was just going to ask,
if you didn't get into that, I was going to ask, how is the mechanics of that boss?
Yeah, it was like, it was fine, right? It was like a 3. There was nothing that I did in the boss fight that I was like, whoa, that was really sick. Like, that was really fun. That was really cool. Like, at the end of the fight, I was like, that was visually really cool. But, I mean, that's about it. Like, it was a fine boss fight. It wasn't bad, which is great. And that's why I give it like a 3 out of 5. It was very solid, no problems. Not super impressive from a mechanical perspective, but engaging enough. Right.
Sure. Okay.
They have a dodge in the game, so I'll talk a little bit about the characters themselves. So all the characters have a skill and an ultimate, and they have a swap-in skill. If you ever played Withering Waves, swapping in after like a little bit will activate a special kind of swap-in skill, so they do that. Everything felt generally fine. They've got a basic combo attack like you would expect. There's no charge attack, at least for most of the characters. I think one of the characters had a charge attack, but all the other ones didn't. One thing that really weirded me out about the game is the movement speed was slow. It seemed like weirdly slow. Like if you watch them moving and running in the trailer, like they start running, but like it just doesn't really feel that quick. Especially for a game that's got like parkour and stuff and walking on the walls and stuff. It did not feel like
you can like run up walls and stuff. Interesting.
Yeah. So it didn't feel fast though. Like when you're in combat, didn't feel that fast going from like enemy to enemy, like you're running to the next enemy. You're kind of like, it feels slow. Or like you're just want to gap close a little bit and you're running towards them. You're like, I just wish I would have gotten there just a little bit faster. If they bumped up the movement speed 10, maybe probably 20%, then I think it would feel just right. Especially for like the style that they're going for. The animations and stuff are all really fast, but then you get to like walking and it like immediately feels like you've got the brakes on. So that was kind of weird.
Interesting.
But it felt, other than the movement and like the general locomotion, it felt pretty fine. Like the combos, the attack combos felt pretty good. There's a dodge as well. You get 3 charges of a dodge that can animation break. And the dodge has an actual like, you know, if anyone's played Zenless Zone Zero, which I think has the best feeling dodge ever, it's got like that slow down and like a sound effect to it and like a visual effect and everything. It feels really good. This game, if Zenless Zone Zero's dodge, and I put a lot of emphasis on the dodge because I think it's like such a core mechanic to like these action games. I would say 5 out of 5 for Zenless Zone Zero's dodging. This game had like a 3 to a 4. It's like a 3.5, almost a 4, I would say. Maybe a 4.
Okay.
It's pretty close. Yeah, it feels pretty good. It's really, the thing that made it not feel as good as Zenless is it has the visuals and it has the sound effect and it has the slowdown, but it's really fast. It's like really quick. So you only feel that like oomph for just like a moment and then it's like over. It's like, oh, okay. So it feels good, but it could feel like more weighty, right? So, yeah, that was pretty good. I really enjoyed that.
How about so you were talking about the movement, that it feels slow. I see there's like, in some of the trailers and stuff, I saw that there was like a lot of emphasis on driving your car around.
Yeah.
Like how often did you find yourself moving on foot versus moving with your car?
That's a good question. When I was playing through the demo, it was a 15-minute demo, and I got to play through the story. And then at the end, when I had 2 minutes left on my timer, I got to like the open city area. So I didn't get to use any of the vehicles or test any of that out, sadly. So yeah, unfortunately, that not great, I suppose. But I did get to play 4 characters. They all were pretty fun. The cat girl turns into like a tornado. It's the blue hair cat girl. She turns into like a tornado for her
like
skill,
a wind tornado.
I
saw that. Yeah,
it was pretty cool. It's really flashy. The game, it left me. There's this game, NTE, and Project Mugen, which are kind of like very similar. This like city-esque, very stylized Genshin type inspired game, right? Which is totally fine. I think it's good to take inspiration. But Mugen and this game really made me skeptical. They look a lot more like style over substance. And I'm happy to say that NTE absolutely delivered for the most part on the substance of what they're doing, right? It's still in development, so it's going to get better, hopefully. Hopefully it doesn't get worse. But yeah, but I'm happy to say that it actually met my expectations when it comes to playing a good, solid gacha game. I'll definitely be playing it when it comes out. It's going to be free, right? Might as well. It can't be said for all of the games I played, unfortunately, which we'll get to. But yeah, overall, I was really happy. The character switching feels fine, feels good. There were a couple of weird things with like, sometimes I'd switch based on like where the boss was, and I would switch and my attack wouldn't hit the boss like at all, even if they were like slightly elevated. So they need to kind of improve the hitbox range a little bit just so it feels better. But other than that, no, NTE was really good. I was impressed. I hope it gets better.
As far as the switching goes, how much synergy is there between the characters? Like, are there elements that, amplify each other? Moves, like what clearly if the demo was only 15 minutes, you probably can't do a whole lot of testing, but
right. I didn't notice anything like that. There was no there were tutorial prompts that came up and stuff like that. There was no tutorial prompts for any kind of element or synergy or anything. It was basically totally independent characters that had no interactions whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah. I would imagine that will probably come in time
later.
Yeah, I don't know when this game's releasing, but I could see that stuff coming at some point. If it's not there, personally, I don't really care too much about that. Personally, I know that there's lots of people who do, and it is a nice way to keep the combat dynamic and interesting and constantly engaging. But for me, it felt generally fine with how it is. As long as they make more engaging bosses and enemies and stuff, that was the biggest weakness of this game, then I would say generally, yeah, you got a good game on your hands.
And it's 4 characters to a team?
4 characters to a team, yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
Very interesting design to have such a large team, but no, I mean, like you said, it could maybe come later, but no like actual interaction between them.
Yeah, it would be nice. Yeah, they've got the switching, but I mean, it's not synergistic per se. It's just an ability.
Yeah, it's just literally just switching. Yeah. Interesting.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, good impressions then all around.
Yeah, pretty solid stuff. Okay. Very happy. Nice. I was surprised. I honestly expected it to be not great, but these sometimes the style over substance games deliver on the substance too. So
yeah, like because the thing that I don't know if interested, but stood out to me the most was like the car thing, and so it's I guess not disappointing since they want to probably limit it, but like. I wish you would have had time to drive the cars and see what that whole thing was about. Because aside from that, I don't really see what makes this game stand out. Like, am I wrong in that? Is this just kind of run-of-the-mill combat stuff? Or...
Yeah, I would say with so many gacha games coming out in this like Genshin-inspired or Hoyo-inspired landscape, especially like these action games, it definitely, there's always a question of like, what makes this game special? For this game specifically, I think they're riding a lot on the urban design, the stylistic design to kind of carry it, which personally I think is totally fine. There's some locomotion stuff that they're doing as well. It's not too over the top, but it could be enough to differentiate a little bit. I think as long as these games are competent in their mechanics for like combat and content, which being like bosses and stuff, I think as long as they're competent in that, they can ride on their style, right? Because I think there's lots of people who are interested in Genshin and maybe Withering Waves, but they want something in the city. They want something more like punkish cyberpunk-esque. They want something more, you know, their speed is more like the city aesthetic. And so when Genshin and Withering Waves, you know, Genshin's more fantasy and colorful, and Withering Waves is more like grounded fantasy. Well, you know, this game is going to hit now in the middle of that, or in another tier of that, of like, okay, well, if those games don't hit your fancy and you want this like urban look, this city look with like lots of colors, almost bordering on Splatoon use of like color and paint aesthetic, then this is the game that's going to be for you. That's what's really going to speak, I think. There's nothing that this game does that's like truly exceptional, except maybe the design, like the visual flair, you could say. Some people are going to find it exceptional, right? But when it comes to like the combat and stuff and general gameplay, there's nothing that really stands out that's like truly exceptional. It's just a good game, which again, like I'm saying, there's a lot of games coming out, and that's not that common to come out with like a good solid gacha game, as we're going to talk about with some of these other ones. It's not easy to just have a really solid game. Like Withering Waves was like, I'm so glad that that's a competition point now with Hoyo, because there's not a lot of games like Withering Waves. In fact, Withering Waves is like one of the only other games that has any kind of competition towards Hoyo in this like action gacha space. So NTE, I would predict, will be another one of these really solid gacha games that sticks around and creates a thorn in the side of Hoyo's dominance, which is great because then that means everyone wins.
Better for everyone. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. All right. Well, what's the next one? Which, okay. You played a few.
Yes. So the next one I played was Endfield. All right, George, have you ever played Arknights? Do you even know what Arknights is?
I know what it is, but I've never played. Yeah. I've never played it.
I played I played Arknights back when it came out. It wasn't really my speed, and I actually played it like 3 to 6 months ago, just to give it another shot. And I played it for about a week, and it was like, okay, like it's fine. But action games are more my speed most of the time. I'm not opposed to playing like tower defense stuff and RPGs and whatnot, but it's not really my speed. So when I saw that they're coming out with this game called Endfield, that's more of an action game, I was pretty excited because I think the designs of the Arknight characters and the art style is pretty solid overall. So why don't we just like launch into the art style and stuff? I think the character designs are pretty good. Arknights is a lot more grounded when it comes to character designs and art style. So while I think the character designs are really good, and the models are really polished, I think that's the biggest thing. The environments and the characters are super high quality. Like really detailed. You can see in the footage here, and it looked just as good when I was playing it, is the detail in the environments is really nice. However, there was almost nothing remarkable about the environments at all. It was all very like generic, not like great, not bad, but it's not like standout art style or anything. It's not like a standout location where there's like all these beautiful crystals or something. There were a couple of cool places here or there, but generally it was like, you know, grassy plains area with lots of rocks. However, the thing that made it really beautiful was like how detailed it was. It looked so nice just as it was. Yeah, it was really interesting. And I think that's how the character models are too. I think the characters are very detailed. They're very well designed, but they don't generally stand out. Like if I was to show you a character, you'd be like, oh, is that like a Withering Waves character or is that an Endfield character? Right? It's just there's no like style to it per se. But
I do think that Arknights Endfield has like a realism kind of flair to it, especially like if we compare to the last game we were just talking about, like that's bright colors, all this stuff. Right. It still has like an anime quality to it, but it's they're more realistic. Even the art style itself, like the colors are more muted. There's like a kind of like a filter over the screen that just gives it this, I don't know, just realistic look, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's kind of interesting, right? It's like not striking, but it's very satisfying. There's something about it. Again, I just go back to detail. Whenever I want to say that like, oh, it's not as good or it doesn't pop as much, I always come back to like, man, the detail in this game is really nice. Like everything I looked at was just like so crisp and so well put together. And so even though it doesn't have like the environments and the characters didn't have that kind of jump out factor, I still really appreciate it. I still really liked it. If I had to give it a score, if we're going along the scores, I would say this is an easy 4. If they had some style to it, I would say it's a 5. I'd say the environments, oh man, it's so tough, right? Because like I'm so close to giving it a 5. It's like a 4.5. Like I'm so close, but it's still missing that like wow factor, right? It's so close to that wow factor in the details alone that I couldn't give it like a 5.
By wow factor, what do you mean? Like an area that's just like otherworldly, or
yeah, just an
like
area
what?
that really takes your breath away. Like I kept playing and I was like, wow, this area looks really nice, right? It looks really detailed, looks really, really nice. But it wasn't like a, whoa, this looks incredible. Like, wow, these characters look beautiful, right? It's just like, wow, these characters are really well done. They're really detailed. I really like them. I'm really enjoying them. Same thing how I felt with the environment, but it was never a like, whoa, this anime cat girl is freaking 10 out of 10, bro, right? It was not like, wow, this area like took my breath away, right? It was just like, wow, it's really beautiful. The UI, however, was really impressive. Of all the games that I played, Neverness to Everness had like a UI that was very, not totally, but it was like, it invoked a lot of Genshin feel, you could say. They took a heavy inspiration. Endfield is not like that at all. Enfield's UI is very impressive. They've got some really impressive people working on UI in that company because everything was like style. It was like the perfect blend of form and function. They have all this really cool stuff to look at visually, but you always know like very quickly what you're looking at, what's clickable, where the information is. Your eyes are directed to the right spots. Honestly, one of the most impressive UIs I've seen in a video game, just straight up. I was really impressed with the UI. Yeah, it was really, really good. Yeah, that was something that really stuck out to me was the UI. So yeah, I wanted to make sure I absolutely mentioned that. Okay, let's talk about the combat because this is a weird one. So you would be forgiven to think that the game is like an action game based off of the footage. So there's a couple of things. When you use a basic attack, your character will auto walk over to the nearest enemy that is in like targeting range. And if you hold down the button, your character will just attack. There's really like, you don't have to like click. You just like click and hold. Your character runs up to the enemy and will just like keep attacking them and you'll stay with them. It was really weird when I figured out like this happened.
MMO-esque?
No, because MMOs are more like tab targeting. It's not quite the same.
Okay.
It's weird, right? So there's that. There's also when you use an ability, it pauses the game. Well, it slows the game down to like 10% speed. And then you can use that. So it was kind of odd to play because it's not quite an action game. It was the closest thing I think that you could get to blending like a turn-based game and like maybe even like, I don't want to badmouth the game by saying auto because it was clearly not auto. But it was like the blending of action game and turn-based game in a lot of ways, right? Because you can kind of stop time, essentially. You've got this like run up and hit kind of thing. Also, there's no dodge. I assumed that since it looked like an action game, there was dodge, but there's no dodge. The way that you stop big enemy hits is by doing abilities that have like knockdown. And then you like use abilities to counter the enemy rather than dodging. Now you can break animation by hitting a movement button. It like breaks most animations, at least for the basic attacks. And then you could walk out of like big hits. But I noticed that my AI allies were not doing that. So I actually went into a battle with some tough enemies and I was generally fine. I got a couple, I got hit a little bit, but before I knew it, my AI companions were dead. And maybe the AI is going to get better when the game comes out, I guess. But like they were all dead. So I was kind of like,
Okay. Well,
interesting. Okay. So it really did feel like more of a turn-based game than anything, right? Like if I was playing like an action game, I would expect my allies to like be alive and stuff, but it felt like the action version, you know, like when you're playing an RPG, especially like in a gacha game, and you just feel like it's a numbers game. Like I have to have X amount of health to like take the hits, because I will take the hits, right? You know, that kind of feeling. But in an action game, it's like a math
puzzle, essentially sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
But in an action game, you're just like, I can have 1 HP. As long as I'm dodging, it doesn't matter. I don't have to get hit, right? Technically.
Yeah.
But that's not how it felt in this game. At least, especially for the AI companions, it was like, my characters will get hit, right? Because it's kind of a turn-based game, sorta. It's not really, and you can avoid a lot of damage, but like the abilities that the enemies would use that you can interrupt, you can stop those with certainty. However, the like normal attacks that the enemies didn't really feel avoidable. It was just they would swipe, and then that was it. And there's no dodge, right? So they're like, what are you going to do? You like slow walk away, maybe? But like then you're like not attacking half of the time because you're constantly slow walking away. So it really felt like I was just sitting there hitting, and we were exchanging blows back and forth through these auto attacks. And then when they use an ability, I could use an ability to counter, or I could use an ability to, you know, hit them before. So it was so weird. Like it was, I'm not going to say it was bad, because I don't actually think it was bad. But if you were expecting a action game, it's not exactly what you expect, right? I'm not going to say it's not an action game, because it certainly is. And there may be more to it. Again, I only got to play it for about I think that was like 15, 20 minutes. And it was good. And there are some action elements. There was a boss that had some action elements that you could like jump over things. I don't know, it's so weird. It's such a different game than I was expecting. Certainly not bad, but certainly not full action like I would think.
Huh. Interesting. That is a weird...
It's so
I'm trying to think if I've played any game like that where it's like not action, but like it seems like a passive action game, if that kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah, like if anyone's played Final Fantasy 12,
okay.
Final Fantasy,
I haven't played that, but yeah,
it's a lot like if you took Final Fantasy 12 but you made it more action. That's basically Endfield. Like if you want to have an idea of very similar to how Endfield actually plays, go play Final Fantasy 12 and then just think a little bit more action than that. And that's basically Endfield. It's super interesting. I'll definitely play this game when it comes out, because I really like the details and the look of the game, so I'll play it for that alone, at least for a little bit. I want more time with the combat to make a full determination if I actually like it or not, because it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. But there are aspects of the game that I like. There's the building stuff, which I didn't get to do, which is fine. But like there's the base building and stuff, and the character design's really nice and, you know, whatnot. So I'll definitely be playing this when it comes out for sure. I would give it overall, if I give NTE like a 3 to 4, a solid like 4-ish, I would give this a solid 4. If NTE was like 3 to 4, 3.5, I'd give this like a 4, I would say.
Okay.
But maybe, but like it's like a dubious one. It's like it could be like still a 4, but like if I spend a bunch of time with the combat and I'm just kind of bored because it's not action enough, right? It's just kind of like holding down the button and doing some skills occasionally, then I could see that going down to a 3. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. Yeah, it was very different than I expected, though.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you, it seems like you didn't interact with it. I was going to ask you about like the base building and how that interacts with the general gameplay loop. But yeah. Sucks that you didn't get to try it out.
Yeah, it's more of a long-term thing anyways. I don't think there's much to it when it comes to that. There could be some tower defense type stuff. That'd be kind of cool. Like a cool homage to doing like some tower defense
stuff.
Call
back to their old stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, another thing I want to mention about the characters. So this one's another really weird thing. So you know, like in typical gacha games, you've got like your ultimate and your ability and maybe like an alternate ability and your basic attacks and your like hold to do like a charge attack, stuff like that. Well, this game had, all the characters had one skill, and that skill eventually, through accumulating points, would turn into an ultimate. But you had access to the teams. I was on a team of 3. I don't know if it goes past that, but at least, oh no, it goes to 4. I was on a team of 3. The weird thing is you play all the characters at the same time, but only one at a time. And what I mean by that is if you have 4 characters on your team, you have 4 skills at the bottom of the page or at the bottom of the screen. And you can click on any of those skills and they'll do that skill. And you switch to that character as you do the skill at the same time. So it's kind of weird. You like simultaneously will play all of the characters and none of them all at the same time, right? It's like, but when you're not playing at one active character, the other characters are on the field attacking, getting damaged, unfortunately, because the AI was really stupid. But like, yeah, it's such a different game.
Interesting. Yeah, like, so when you say that, and you, I know you said it's not like an MMO, but when you say that, what I literally picture is you're not playing, you're playing a team. The team is the character, and each character is a skill for that larger character.
Yes.
And so that's what I picture. Like you picture, I'm literally picture Final Fantasy 14, and like each character is a different skill in there. And
right.
Yeah.
Well,
so
like
how do you aim
characters,
then? If it's
crazy.
not like, yeah. But so if it's not tab targeting, how do you move to the next like enemy? You just wash it over, or
you just wash it. Like it feels very much like an action game in that way. That's why I have such a difficulty kind of saying if it's one or the other, because it really feels like both at the same time.
Yeah.
It's the closest to like the exact middle of action and turn-based I've probably ever played. It's crazy.
Wow.
It's really its own thing. Like there's no game like this. I've never played a game like this before. It's very interesting. Yeah.
But is it engaging? Like, would you say the combat
it was engaging what I played?
Okay.
I could see it becoming annoying maybe if the AI really is that bad the whole time. And I could see it being a little frustrating that there's no like way to dodge certain things. I don't know how the like skills are going to pan out long term and how the boss interactions for all the bosses are going to go. Maybe you'll always be able to have characters on your team that will give you the tools to stop attacks when you want to. So my dream for this game would be that you'll play it in such a way and you'll be able to interact with the combat system that you don't miss dodging. That you're just like, well, I don't miss dodging because I have other tools to do that. Yeah. And that would be great, right? Then this game would really have its own style, and that'd be cool. But we'll just have to see how that pans out. But yeah, it's interesting. There was story skipping. There was interesting stuff. It was really cool. It was a cool game.
What about synergy between the characters? Did you notice any of that?
Not particularly. There's a little bit of synergy in the fact of like sometimes a character had like a knockdown ability that you could then use another ability after that to like deal like damage or like hit in an area, and so you can have like a guy's locked down or grouped up and stuff like that. So there is a little bit of light synergy between the skills, but nothing too crazy, nothing like majorly synergistic that I could tell.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about just general traversal through the stages, or is it open world? I actually don't know.
Yeah, it felt open world, or at least open area.
Okay, sure.
Which personally I prefer more open area, like big open areas than like a whole world.
A full open world. Yeah.
It was fine. It was like 3 out of 5. It was like very standard stuff. It didn't feel bad. It didn't feel like exceptional. There was no like locomotion stuff. It's a very grounded game. Like you can jump. But the game felt very methodical in its pace. It didn't feel slow, which is weird, right? Because it didn't feel slow like NTE felt, but it felt very grounded and it felt very deliberate in how like you did things and what was happening. So it felt nice.
Interesting.
Overall, felt good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
interesting
and like
game.
exploration, like through the stage or the area you were in, is it like a thing where you got to go off the beaten path a lot, or is there kind of
Not too much. It was pretty linear, I would say.
linear? Okay,
Yeah, it was pretty linear, but I'm fine with stuff like that. I think that's fine. There were some detours here or there, but nothing too major.
yeah.
Yeah, I did notice there were some collectibles, and so it seems like there will be some level of like exploring and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised about stuff like that. But yeah, it was nice. It was a nice experience. I wasn't sure how I would feel about it, but I'm feeling pretty positive about it, and I'll definitely try this one when it comes out.
Okay, all right,
nice,
good stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so the next major game we played is Duet Night Abyss. Where do we start with this one? This is a game that a lot of people have compared to Warframe a bit, based off of I'm pretty sure based off like animations and generally how it plays and stuff like that. I
wanted to ask about combat on this one. Because something that I noticed in the trailers, and it's one thing to watch something and it's another thing to play it, but this game, floaty is the wrong term, but it seemed to lack certain oomph to like the moves. Like when you jump, it's not like I'm making it more extreme than it actually is, but it literally seems like you just do like an arc at the same speed that you go up, same speed that you fall down. There's no like landing, kind of impact. A lot of the moves, it seems like it's flashy animation that happens, but there's like some X factor that's missing, that just, it's lacking that impact. So I don't know if that's like a thing that you experienced playing it, or if it's a thing that I just see from watching.
Well, George, you're more astute than I am, because when I watched these videos, I wasn't really paying too much attention to that. However, I absolutely noticed that immediately as I started playing. The gameplay in this game was not good. It was just straight up not good.
Let's stick with the number score that you've been doing. So you gave Neverness to Everness 3.5, was it, or a 4?
3.5 to 4, yeah, in that range. Yep.
And Arknights was a 4, right?
Arknights was, I would say, a 4. Yep.
Okay.
This game's like a 2 for sure, no doubt. Yeah, this game, it wasn't actively bad, but it certainly wasn't good. I wouldn't say it was good either. It was like, oh, this is not very fun. I played this one first of the games that I played. Then I went and played the other ones, and I actually came back to play this one just to see how I felt, just to double check, to make sure. And I just...
Same thing?
I literally left the second time I played, I left the demo area early before my time was up because I got bored. Ooh. Yeah. I had access to all of the characters, or at least most of the characters. I had access to a bunch of endgame weapons. I had a bunch of different weapon types. I tried as many weapon types as I could, pretty much all of them. There's a bunch of melee weapons. There's a bunch of range weapons. And nothing felt good at all. Nothing. It was...
So was it the lack of impact, or like how is the core mechanics of like the actual combat? Was that also lacking as well?
Yeah, everything's lacking. So dodging has there's no animation, there's no way to tell that you've done a proper dodge. It feels totally weightless. It doesn't feel like you get enough range in the dodge itself. It doesn't feel satisfying to use in any way whatsoever. Boss tells were a little mixed. Some of them were good. Some of them felt a little awkward. Like you were saying, there's no weight to swinging. Like swinging the weapons themselves don't really feel great. There's not a lot of forward. There's not enough forward momentum with a lot of the attacks. A lot of the attacks you just kind of barely move forward, or you're standing still, which didn't feel great. But the biggest grievance is hitting things. There's like the tiniest little bit of like hit stop and like feedback from the enemies when you hit guys, that it makes it feel like you're slashing at the air, right? It really did not feel satisfying at all. I did a mission where I did missions where I fought a boss, and I did missions where I fought a bunch of enemies. either one of them, nothing felt good. He's slicing through a bunch of enemies, which is like one of the most fun things you can do in a video game, just cutting down a bunch of enemies. Totally boring. Absolutely, totally boring. The guns felt super weightless. They didn't feel like you were shooting. It was just, everything felt like it was blowing bubbles. It was so disappointing. Like, this is a game that I really liked a lot of the character designs. I think they've done really well with that. I think the areas are like fine. The areas look fine. There's nothing too spectacular about them. They look serviceable enough. But I think the character designs are really cool. Some of the enemy designs are pretty cool as well. But oh, man, I was so disappointed. This is the reason why I went to see this one first, is because this is one of the ones I was looking most forward to. And yeah, it just, the combat was so deeply unsatisfying. Man, I hope this has another while of development before it comes out.
I was just gonna say, like, it's still in development, obviously, right. And it feels to me like these kind of I don't know exactly what what category these things fall into, but I'd say like animation issues that make the combat feel, you know, they don't have an impact, weightless, or whatever you want to call it. Right. Like, it seems to me like that's something, as long as, like, that's why I asked you about like the core skills. Like, if the skills themselves, the core mechanics are there, it seems like they have a base built enough where they could then, you know, sprinkle the X factor that you need on top, like, which is like proper animation and impact and weight and all that stuff. Right. So, but yeah, but if the combat just as a whole is unsatisfying, I don't know. I don't know how much of that. I mean, things can always change in development, obviously, but I don't know how much of that can be fixed by animation only.
Right.
So, like, is there, like, the bosses, like, is there, like, are they interesting fights, like, interesting tells?
No, I fought the winged boss that they show in this little video down here. It's like a yellow, it's a bunch of wings. It's a girl who kind of like will fly around. There's like a period of time where she'll go into like a powerful mode and she'll be up in the air and you got to shoot her wings. None of it was fun. None of it was fun at all. She has like a tornado that slowly follows you as you're trying to shoot her wings. It didn't feel particularly fun. Like, they could have shot like some projectiles at me and forced me to dodge a little bit, but it was literally just like run for a bit, stop and shoot, run for a bit, stop and shoot, run for a bit, stop and shoot. It wasn't super engaging. And yeah, I don't know, man. It was shocking. It was shockingly bad. And not in like the terms of like it's a 1 out of 5 shockingly bad, but it was like
expectations to reality.
Yeah, my expectations were like, this is going to be an easy 3, maybe even a 4, right? That's what I thought. But like, yeah, I don't know. The skills didn't feel fun to use. The normal attacks didn't feel fun. The only thing that was slightly fun was the jump attack into the slam. But it was literally just like jump slam, jump slam, jump slam, jump slam. And all the characters felt like the same. Well, that's the other thing. All of the characters can use any of the weapons. And I think this is part of the problem.
Interesting.
You could just switch to like, the great sword or like the dual blades or whatever, you know, the different things that they have. And so like all the characters feel almost the same, right? Like a lot of what you're doing with the characters feels like the same weapons the whole time. And so it's like,
what's the unique factor of the characters? Is it like different skills?
It's the skills. Yeah, it's the two. They had 2 skills, and like a skill and an ult, basically. It wasn't quite like that. I don't think that. It was hard to say. I played a lot of different characters and tried a lot of different skills. Some of them felt more ult-like than other ones. Sure. But yeah, it was just, everything felt kind of samey. The weapons didn't feel too different. I mean, they felt a bit different, but everything felt the same kind of bland, unsatisfying kind of well. Locomotion was fine. It was 3 out of 5, I would say. It was fine. But yeah, I couldn't have been more disappointed with how the game turned out overall.
Dang.
UI was like fine. It was like serviceable. It's very Genshin inspired. There's not a lot of like, you know, inspiration to it. Yeah, I don't know, man. This was a big miss for me, and it's pretty disappointing. It was so... maybe this will get me in trouble to say, but it was so unsatisfying that even though this game is free to play, I'm probably not going to play it when it comes out, just to even try it. Unless they can say and come out and be like, yeah, we've improved combat since whenever this is going to come out. I have no idea. But unless they can say and show that they knew combat was a problem and they fixed it and made it actually fun, I wouldn't even waste my time.
Wow.
Which is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's a very interesting choice to make all the characters be able to use all the weapons. Because typically in gachas, at least the gachas that I've played, you want different play style, you play a different character.
Right.
But if
it
everyone
didn't feel
can
like
use
that in this game. And you know, in like Genshin, there's a bunch of characters that use a spear, right? So like them using a spear is fine because everyone used the spear in a different way. That's not how this game was. When you use the spear on X character, it's the spear moveset, period. Right? So
yeah, like unless the weapon movesets are just satisfying on their own.
Right.
Making it for everyone, it is a strange decision.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Well,
there was.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, there was this. It was funny that I saw the bow in the preview here that made me think of it. There was a bow that I switched to, and how you use like the ranged weapons is left click is for the melee weapon and right click is for the ranged one. But the ranged stuff, because they're kind of packing so much into just that one mouse for buttons, you have to like just right click and then your gun auto shoots by the fact that you're holding down the right click. So like literally I switched to this bow that I had that was like a 5-shot bow, and it was just like my character just did this. And it felt like almost like a slow machine gun, and there was no weight, no impact to it. Bows are like one of the most satisfying weapons to use in a video game, and there was absolutely none of the satisfaction that went with using a bow. It was so disappointing. I thought, oh, surely bows. Bows will be the weapon that do it for me. Like, right, I'll enjoy this. No, it's not good.
Interesting. So you couldn't even hold a drawn bow to get like a charge shot or whatever?
And stuff and something like that. No, just totally unsatisfying, constant auto draw, shooting, nothing.
Is it a projectile hit scan?
Yeah, projectile. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So...
Well, what would you say is the best part of the game that you experienced? Maybe even if that best thing was mid. Is it the characters or is there something else?
The character designs for sure. For sure. As you can see right here, I've got Snow. Snow is the mascot character from this game. She's so cute. Like absolutely adorable. There's a lot of characters that look really cool, great designs. There's some like jellyfish lady. She looks so sick. Like her hair is kind of like out like a jellyfish kind of
like
blob.
Underwater jellyfish.
Yeah, and and it glows too. Like awesome. It's very cool. The game has a lot of style. I wasn't a really big fan of the spell effects and stuff. It wasn't that impressive, especially considering the other games that I played. The spell effects and the animations were like, they're fine, but the design of the characters, really good. Really good. Like 4 out of 5, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah. Even the boss designs were pretty cool, but just not fun. That's
man.
But that's the biggest sin a game can do, is not be fun and satisfying, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Disappointing.
Okay. All right. Well, you say there's one little bonus game that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so I had never heard of this game until I got to Tokyo Game Show, but the next game we're talking about is Breakers. Never heard of this game. Breakers, let me see. It was Breakers Unlock the World. I just saw it on a whim, and I thought, oh, I'll go play it, and I sat down and played it. There's really not a lot to say about Breakers. The character designs were good. They were fine. I would give it like a 3 out of 5. It was fine.
Okay.
Lots of cute characters. Nothing that like stood out. It had a lot of not Blue
the art
Protocol.
Style.
Yeah,
I was gonna say just that art style reminds me of Blue Protocol a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. The it was good. It was good. I liked it. It's borderline 3.5, I would say. It was like there were some cute characters. This girl here, with the horn, she was really cool. I didn't see all of these other stuff. I played with like a handful of characters. There's some really good designs here. I don't think that the style is too unique, and I think that's the thing that holds it back just a little bit. But I think the general design, the boss designs from a visual perspective, though, were awesome. I fought that golden dragon, this one right here. Really freaking cool design. Now, when it comes to the gameplay, though, I want to say and I want to hope that this game is still early in development, because this game felt bare bones. Really? The bosses are really... they felt like they were in development. I've played a bunch of games that have been in development. This boss definitely felt like it was in development. And the characters did too. The characters had like a basic attack and a skill and an ultimate, which is like the standard of fare. But it didn't feel... There was something about it that felt very bare bones. So it was like, it was fine. The animations were nice. The ult animations were really good. They have like a full cinematic thing where they show the hammer girl has this like incredible animation, and she's great. She's obviously the best character in the whole game. This girl right here. She was really interesting. Like it felt like fine, right? It felt more satisfying to play than Duet Night Abyss, which is good, but I wouldn't say it was more than a 3. It's a solid 3. It's certainly not a 3.5. It wasn't as unsatisfying, but it definitely had some levels of satisfaction. If this game is still 1 to 2 years out, I don't think it's 2 years out, but if it's like late 2025 that it's going to come out, this could be a pretty good game, right? Yeah. I think this has got a lot of potential in it. But if it's coming out like 2024 this year, I hope they got a lot of things on the internals to push out, because the demo was not like release confidence. It was like, oh, this game has potential and this game's got a good framework, but kind of confidence, but not like we're releasing soon type of confidence. So I hope it's a 2025 release. I'll absolutely try this game out if it comes out late 2025.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
I saw some gameplay footage of the Tokyo Game Show from it, and like it does. I can tell what you mean by like it feels like it's still in development, because I don't know if it's hitbox collision or what, but there's like a wolf boss, and instead of like jumping out of the way, it like literally like slides, and it's just like, did it collide with like the player box, or did it like what happened? Yeah, so
yeah, absolutely. There was a lot of times where the dragon would like do something and then kind of like awkwardly like move with the animation wasn't quite synced up exactly, or like sometimes the dragon would like do a couple of moves and just like sit there, and I was just like, did it break? What's going on? Like, what's happening? And it just wouldn't do anything. And then it would go, and it would kind of snap into a different position and start doing a move. And I was like, oh boy. Like, all right, this game's in development. Okay. Yeah. So lots of polish is needed. Lots of fleshing out of the game that needs to happen. But generally, I would say lots of promise. I was really interested. There's not a ton to say about it. I didn't get a long time to play it. I got to be in like the kind of town area. The town feels very cramped. It's like a cramped fantasy area, like way more cramped than you see in the videos. I didn't hate it though. It was kind of interesting. A lot of these games have like open, sprawling cities. We need some cramped cities, man. We need some cramped fantasy cities. I really liked it. It felt kind of cozy in a sense. Cameras are a little tricky in settings like that. I'm not saying the camera was tricky here, but the camera can be interesting in kind of cramped spaces, which is probably why a lot of people will have open areas. But I would say I was positive about this one. From coming from a game that I'd never heard of to playing it for the first time, I was like, okay, it's rough, but there's potential here.
Nice.
Yeah.
According to a tweet, it's supposed to come out, but this is a tweet from 2023. It was supposed to come out, the game, 2024 this year. So things can change in a year, right? Like they might delay it and stuff.
Yeah, and we don't know how old this demo was. It could have been like a super old demo. to be fair, which is silly to show off, I think, if it's this rough and if it's like a early 2024 demo and they're showing it off like now, it's just like, bro, don't do that. That's not going to be a good impression.
You show your best at the Tokyo Game Show. Come on.
Yeah. If it releases in like even a remotely similar state to how it is right now, though, they're not going to be able to maintain a player base. I think they'll be able to bring people in because it is a lot of nice style of areas and characters. And I think people will play it for a little bit, but it's lacking a lot of polish. So if they can get that polish up by the end of 2024 and kind of flesh out how the characters are feeling a bit and mechanics, great, awesome. It'll be great. If they can't, I mean, this game's essentially dead on arrival. Like, it's not good. But it's close, man. It's close. I really hope that they'll stick the landing with this one, delay it if they need to, or if they're really ahead in development, then okay, it is what it is. But yeah, Breakers. That was interesting. It was a nice surprise.
What's aside from the art style, what do you think is like the thing that makes this game's sticking point, makes it stand out?
That's a good question. Dang. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think anything. I don't think there's anything special about this game at all. Right?
Okay. Because the art style does make it stand out, like, to be fair.
Yes. Yeah, I think
so that's
the
why I
art
was wondering,
style,
like, is it just that? Is it just art, or has it got something else going on for it that you can't really see while watching a video, and more so you got to experience it to believe it, kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I fought the dragon, and there were a couple of interesting mechanics to the dragon, like hiding behind a pillar to avoid an attack and stuff, but like nothing particularly that stands out. I think this is a game that's going to be resting a lot on the art style. It's the thing that it has going for it is it's not like it's not bad, right? It's a good game. So if you just like the style and you like some of the characters and what they're doing with some of the mechanics of like just the general fight mechanics, there's nothing that stands out as like a special particular thing about this game, which again goes down to like, this probably needs just a bit more time in the oven. Find something that you could do that's fun and interesting. You need to do something interesting with the mechanics of the characters, or you need to do something interesting with the content, like the bosses. Something has to be there to give yourself the edge. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like Dragalia Lost or Final Fantasy XIV style, really interesting and fun bosses. I don't know if that's the route you want to go, or if it's like characters that have some kind of specialty or interesting synergy, or maybe like a synergy that you do in multiplayer that you really are like a tank healer, DPS kind of thing. You're doing something interesting with the characters. Whatever it is, they got to figure it out, because I didn't see it in the short demo that I played. It was just very generic, you know,
how long
action
was the demo?
Game. The demo was only like 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
Right, but like you would see it at least, right? You would see that, oh, okay, they've got pieces in here for them to interact. I didn't see any pieces like that at all. It was just the characters, you know, there were some characters that healed a bit, and there was a character that transformed and had like a mode where they just like did a bunch of attacks and stuff. That was the Hammer Girl. So like, yeah, it was good. It was fine. Okay. It wasn't particularly special. It wasn't. Yeah, I don't know. That's it. It was 3 out of 5. It was a good game. I'll play it when it comes out. And the question will be, does it retain me after playing it for a couple of days or a week or so? That's the question. Do they have something interesting to sell me on the game long term? Right? This is a game that'll easily get people in the door and playing for short term. The question will be mid to long term, what you got. Them.
Yeah. Does it have the staying power? Okay.
That's right.
Okay, awesome. Well, anything else on any of these 4 games that you played you want to share before we...
No, I think that's about it. I was just really glad to go to the Tokyo Game Show and check it out. Living in Japan, it makes it really easy.
I bet.
So yeah, hopefully maybe next year we'll have some more interesting impressions.
Do it.
Yeah, that'd be great, right?
We'll see. We'll see what happens. Hopefully.
All right. Yeah, that's
it. A man could dream. Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed these first impressions. If you have any of these games, like if you tried them out yourself, you happen to go to the Tokyo Game Show or anything like that, and you want to let us know your opinions, definitely comment down below. But with that, we'll see you guys next time.
See you, everybody.